appears 365 times in the Bible. That's once for each day. And probably some of us need to be reminded of that more than once a day. And most often it is followed by a promise. Be not afraid, I am with you. Be not afraid, I go before you. Be not afraid, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not harm you. Plans to give you hope. Maureen, in the future. You want a tissue?
I have.
Okay. When I'm speaking about fear today, I'm talking not like those phobias we have about stuff, though this may work for that too. I'm talking about the fear that comes from either unexpected events, life challenges, even sometimes maybe choices that we know we have to make that we're afraid to make, to leave a job or to end a relationship. But oftentimes, life gives it to us. Again, loss of a job, transfer to another state, the end of a relationship, even perhaps a health challenge. And the first thing I think that happens to all of us is fear comes up. We hear that all those voices in our head, well, the one voice, the ego, our mind just takes off running. What if I don't find another job? What if I never meet somebody? What if I don't like the state that I have to go to? What if I can't find a safe home? What if there's no cure? How am I going to pay my bills? And it just goes on and on and on, which obviously makes the fear even worse. And, no pun intended, God forbid, we ask anybody else their opinion or tell somebody and share that story, what's going on. Then we have all their fears added into it. I'm talking from experience, which I'll share with you later. So even though the unexpected can shake our world and have us feeling like we want to face everything and run, the truth is our lives are not meant to be stagnant. They're meant to change. Shift happens, if you will. We're meant to grow, we're meant to rise. And I think if we go through the process, if we stay connected with our God, then we're brought closer to not only our Creator, but our purpose. I think our biggest fear when we come into a challenge is not knowing what's on the other side. But we do know. We might not know what it looks like yet, but we know because we have a promise. Be not afraid, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. With a show of hands, how many have experienced an unexpected event in their life? And again, with a show of hands, how many have gotten to the other side of that event saying these words? That wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Or, I could never have imagined it working out this way. Or, even better, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I know so many cancer survivors that have said, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, that health challenge. Because it makes them want to live. Like you stop putting off till tomorrow what you could do today. And you listen to what your heart and soul have been telling you all along of the things you want to do. Be not afraid, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. So what if in the midst of that challenge we could stop, take a breath, listen to the ego chatter on, but not give in to that drama and fear? What if we could say, I hear you, thanks for the information, and then shift into the challenge, really, but not by ourselves. By surrendering to the God of our knowing, or the God of our understanding. What if instead of running, we decided to take a leap of faith and face everything and rise? And I don't think they call it a leap of faith by accident. You have to just jump sometimes. You have to trust that the wings will be be spread, and that you'll fly. I'm going to read. This is you can see that I use this quite often. I love this book. This is a daily reader. It's called The Book of Awakening, Having the Life You Want by Being Present to the Life You Have. One of my favorite Joseph Campbell quotes is, we have to be willing to let go of the life we've planned in order to accept the life that is waiting for us. So, I want to say this too because this is reminding me of it. Whenever I do a talk, I'm handed all these little gems along the way. And sometimes when you do a talk on peace and stuff will rise up to make you understand that you have to claim that peace. So this week, I was reading this the other day. It's from September 27th, but I read it and I thought, well, I know where I'm using that in the talk. And I eat Luna bars. I've probably eaten them for 2 years. I have never noticed that on the very back there's this little inspirational quote. See? So I guess I opened it the backwards the other day, and I see this quote. This is what the quote says. It's so yes for this. Great things never came from the comfort zone. Shift happens. Okay, so leaning in. This is a quote from Melody. So he does a quote, sometimes his own, sometimes somebody else's. This is from Melody Beattie, who, if any of you know her, she did a lot of work with codependency. Leaning in. Few situations can be bettered by going berserk. That's the quote. It was the philosopher Michael Zimmerman who told the story of being a boy in school when someone passed him a pair of Chinese handcuffs. Everybody know what those are? Those little like macrame things that you put your fingers in? A seemingly innocent thimble-like casing with an opening at each end. It was passed to him without a word, and of course, through curiosity, he slipped his left forefinger in one end and his right in the other. Mysteriously, what made them handcuffs was that the more you tried to pull your fingers out, the tighter they held you. Feeling caught, he panicked and pulled harder. The small cuffs tightened. But suddenly, it occurred to him to try the opposite. And as he leaned his fingers into the problem, the small casing slackened, and he could gently and slowly work his fingers free. So many times in life, our pulling and panic only handcuffs us more tightly. In this small moment, the philosopher as a boy reveals to us the paradox that underscores all courage. That leaning into what is gripping us will allow us to work free. Isn't God good? He hands me all these little diamonds, if you will. That's what happens when you co-create. So again, our lives are not meant to be stagnant. They're meant to be filled with our heart's desires. And sometimes the only way for us to pay attention to those desires is to become who we're created to be, is to move through the challenge that forces us to change. Be not afraid. I have plans for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. We are meant to acknowledge these desires that live within us to the God of our knowing so that they can be manifested into the world. That's co-creation. And who knows better what those are than that little voice inside us? I say it bubbles up. Like, you ever just sit and, you just have this overwhelming desire to do whatever it is, speak, paint, teach yoga, raise a family, any of it. So I believe those are the things that bubble up in us. And if we pay attention and we listen and we sit, they're reminders of what we came here to do. When we can stand in our fear, hand it over to the God of our knowing, and co-create, that's when the magic starts. My acronym for magic. This came to me many, many years ago because of the, oh my God, I can't think of his first name, Dyer. Thank you. I had the W, I couldn't get through it. Wayne Dyer. We were doing a class at church, and it was called, I think it was Big Magic. He co-wrote it. And Reverend Ross took us through a meditation, and he said, what does magic mean to you? And this acronym just popped up. Magic is me and God in cahoots. And what could be any better than that? I don't make them up, they just come. And I usually know when I'm supposed to say it out loud. So once we acknowledge that and we co-create, that's when the magic starts. It's acknowledging our heart's desire so we can move into our purpose. I've come to believe that whatever our fears are during a challenge, on the other side of that challenge, most of our worries will never, ever have happened. Anybody ever experienced that? Right? Who would have ever guessed? And whatever changes the challenges brings are always far better than we could have imagined. Again, it's that fear of not knowing, but we do know, we just can't see it yet. And sometimes it's good not to see the whole thing. It's better to feel the whole thing. Like, let go in quiet into your heart, into your soul. Sit with God and feel that feeling of living in I'll use my own example, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a fireplace and a front porch. You don't have to know how it'll happen. When I share later, the last 18 months, I didn't know one of those things. Not the person who would be the co-creator with me in a human level. None of it. And I'm glad, because we get in the way. I always say, if God gave us a book of what our life is going to look like, we would mess it up. We would want that to happen now, and this to never happen, and we could mess it all up. So the best thing is when that challenge comes, and God's asking us to trust and rise, is to sit with Spirit. Sit in quiet, listen to that voice, and ask, what's the next right step? And after that, what's the next right step? Feel it, instead of trying to see because a girlfriend said to this, Dale said this to me once, and I'll never forget it. God has a bigger Rolodex than we do. I could not have chosen the people that got me to the house I'm in right now. I couldn't have. I couldn't have chosen the person that got me in this church. So when we co-create with God, when we face the fear and rise, we remind other people that it's possible to do the same. As I like to say, no test, no testimony. We're not exceptions, we're examples. And I truly, truly believe that's our purpose here, is to we can't go alone. We have to rise and to raise each other up. This morning, as I was getting ready and practicing the talk and all of that, I call them morning epiphanies. This is what I heard. You're not here to tell people about God. You're here to tell them about your experience with God. Because then they can have their own experience. So let's review what we learned. In order to rise instead of running. 1, breathe until we feel grounded. 2, acknowledge the thoughts without any emotional attachment. 3, hand the situation over to the God of our understanding. 4, ask God to show us the purpose of the situation and what we are to learn from it. 5, drop down into our heart space and to our soul and listen to that still small voice. 6, feel the emotion of what your soul is telling you. 7, be not afraid, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. And 8, make a leap of faith and let the magic raise you to your purpose. So I wanted to know, does anybody have to 12, because I really want to do the meditation, okay? So if you want to stand for a few minutes and like just breathe and stretch.